All right, so we're going to start off. We're going to start off with this problem right here. Okay, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Y'all listen to me. I know y'all don't pay attention to what I say. How do I know? Because on the top of the back of that worksheet, I told y'all those were vertex problems. I've graded one period already, and those kids were like, there were like 4 kids out of the class, no, there weren't 4, but anyway, there were some. And I'm like, what, are you not listening to me? Y'all pay attention to me, okay? Pay attention. I'm going to pull this back just a little bit. I had pushed it down a little bit when we were trying to draw on the red stuff. It was terrible. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do this problem. I'm going to show you a trick, okay? Maybe that'll get your attention, all right? I'm going to show you a trick. I'm not going to be turning flips or anything, but it is pretty cool. All right, so the very first thing it says, tell me the vertex of this problem. So what do I need to do?
We need to move 7 to the outside.
And what else?
Parentheses, from half of
What about this guy right here? Yeah, this guy's a y, okay? This guy's a y. So y is equal to. So yeah, I like your parentheses. My parentheses, like, they give me direction. You don't have to have the parentheses there. Don't think that everybody does parentheses. But for me, it says, oh yeah, I got to complete the square right here. Okay, because sometimes do we get distracted?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So how do you complete the square?
half of B.
Okay, so what's half of 4?
2.
Squared.
4.
And I add it right here. I don't have anything out here, all right, so I did just add 4. So what do I do over here?
Subtract 4.
So why am I adding it here and subtracting it here, and then sometimes I add it and add it?
Because they're on different sides of the equation.
That's right. So if you add and add, you're on different sides of the equation. What you do to one side, you do to the other. If you add and then subtract, if you do and then undo, which is the way I taught you, that means you're on one side of the equation. So I just changed the problem, didn't I? Okay, so now I'm going to not change the problem, all right? Okay.
We have a negative on the outside of the parentheses.
And that's okay. You mean right here?
Left side. By
This
the
side?
right.
Then when you multiply, because this will always be a plus, so then when you multiply here, you'll be really subtracting that number. So out here, you would have to add it.
Gotcha.
Okay? So we did 1 or 2 of them like that yesterday. All right. So y is equal to, open parentheses, square root of the first, keep the sign, square root of the last.
2.
Quantity squared. What's 7 minus 4?
3.
Okay? What's my vertex?
2. 3.
Very good. 2, 3. Okay, so now it wants me to find the solutions or the x-intercepts, the zeros, the roots, the answers, whatever you want to call it, okay, to this equation right here. All right? So some of you are going to go, oh, I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to factor this dude. Does he factor? No. One of the things we're going to learn today is that instead of looking up there and going, I'm not really sure, and trying to factor it and not being able to, I'm going to show you a way to know that you can't factor. Okay? This one's pretty easy because you can look at it and say, can I take the factors of 7 and make them add to be 4?
Yeah,
No. Because the only factors of 7 are 1 and 7 and they don't add to be 4. Okay, so he doesn't factor. Could I go back right here and use the quadratic formula?
Sure.
Yes. Okay? But, y'all, like you've done a little bit of work right here. Let's use your work to your advantage. So let's take this, and instead of that y right there, let's go back and put what? A 0. Should you be able to do this problem right here? Yeah. You've already had a test on this. Do you see how easy I just made it? Okay? So what do I do now? Subtract that 3 from both sides. You have to get what's squared all by itself. 0 minus 3, negative 3 is equal to x minus 2 quantity squared. Now what do I do?
Square root.
Square root.
Yes, sir.
So, it is a little bit backwards. Don't let that mess you up. And if you said, oh, I don't like that, then you can go over here and put it on the other side.
So on the
care.
worksheet, we had to set it back to 0?
No,
Okay.
no, there weren't any on the worksheet that you had to set back on 0. But I'm gonna give you a worksheet today, and these are like the first 3 problems on the worksheet, okay? Why am I doing this? Because you probably gonna see this again. I'm showing you a nice way to do it, okay? So this goes away, x minus 2 is equal to, over here, simplify it out and tell me my answer. Don't forget something.
Okay, yeah,
Y squared root of 3.
that'd be I.
You forgot something.
Plus or minus.
There you go. Plus or minus I square root of 3. Very good. Can't leave a negative under the radicals. 3 does not simplify, so you have to pull your I out. Okay? Now I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Where does it go? In the front. Guys, don't put that thing on that back. So he becomes 2 plus or minus I square root of 3. That's my answers. Actually, I called them x-intercepts, but we know that these would not be on the x-axis. We're going to talk more about that today, too. Okay? So, here you go. These are just like problems 1 through 3 on the worksheet I'm going to give you today. I normally don't give you a worksheet on Friday and tell you it's due on Monday, but I am. Okay? And you're going to thank me for it, okay? Because come Monday, when you start that 50-point worksheet with a partner, okay, that's a 50-point test, people, all right? Then this worksheet is going to help you, all right? That means that I'm going to be looking at who did their worksheet before I pick my partner. You agree? Like if the person you wanted to be partners with and they didn't do their stuff, I'd be like, no. And you will see again. Okay? All right. So there you go.
Put a heart over it.
Okay, so anybody got a question?
We'll see again. So like we'll see
Where are you going to see this again?
On the test?
On the 50-point
Oh.
test.
On the
Monday.
50-point test? Where else might you see it again?
On that worksheet hanging.
What about a big old 100-point test you still hadn't had yet?
I got the thing.
Okay? And I'm going to tell you this. Normally, I don't do this little 50-point worksheet stuff together until after my 100-point test. So I'm guinea pigging y'all, all right, and trying it out and seeing if it helps to do it before. See if it helps my kids out. Okay? All right. So, all right, here's what I want to do. This is the problem that y'all worked yesterday. Do you agree? It was the last problem that we did. Are you with me? Okay, so I got some questions for you. All right? So first of all, how many solutions do I have?
1.
2. Negative 3 plus the square root of 17 over 2 and negative 3 minus the square root of 17 over 2. Everybody agree with me? 2 solutions. Are they real or imaginary?
They're real.
They're real. What would make them imaginary?
You had a negative in the
Yeah,
square root.
if you had a negative under the square root and then you had to pull that I out. Okay, so y'all, it's going to be imaginary if it has an I in the answer. What's going to create that I? If you had a negative under the radical. All right? Now, if they're imaginary, they're just imaginary. But if they're real, we can classify them as rational or irrational. Okay? If they're real, we can classify them as rational or irrational. So, look at this number right here and tell me if he's rational or irrational.
Rational.
Why is he irrational? He has a square root in him, people. Okay? He has a square root. If it's got a radical in it, it's irrational. Okay? If you remove the radical, like you had the square root of 16, then that would be rational because that's 4, right? You see what I'm saying? So if it's got a radical in it, that's irrational. So, look. Irrational, what might you write beside it? Yeah, it has a little radical in it. Rational, you might put a radical with a slash through it, like no smoking, no radicals. Okay? All right. What about on my graph? How many times will this intersect the x-axis?
Once. Because it can't be negative.
Why 2, Evie?
Because there's a plus and a minus.
Yeah, because you got 2 answers right here. You got 2 answers. Each one of them is going to give you an x-intercept, an answer, a solution. Okay? All right. Good deal. Okay, so here we go. We're fixing to work 3 more problems just like this one right here. Okay? And we're going to answer these questions about it. Are you with me? Okay. So this is 4.8. This right here actually went back to 4.7. Okay, so this right here is really 4.7. That's why your worksheet says 4.7 through 4.8, but then right under it, it says just a little. Because I just gave you 3 problems like this, okay? But I decided I wanted to see you work this skill. All right, so now we're back to 4.8. Okay, so here's example 2. 25x squared minus 18x equals 12x minus 9. Remember 4.8 is the quadratic formula, okay? So obviously I'm fixing to use the quadratic formula and solve this question, okay? Now let me ask you this, okay, because this is pretty cool. Think about this, factoring. Is factoring a good way to solve it? Yes, I like factoring. I'm pretty good at factoring, so it's kind of fast for me. It's faster than the quadratic formula. Does it always work? No. So it's good, but it's only good when it factors, right? Okay, so completing the square. Can you complete the square on anything?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Is it always pretty?
No.
No. So I can complete the square, but it's not always fun because you don't always get nice, pretty answers. Okay? So what about the quadratic formula? When can I use it?
Whenever.
Yeah. Y'all, you can use it anytime you want to. So what's cool about the quadratic formula? Y'all, it works all the time. Okay? It works all the time. If the directions don't say factor and solve, heck, and I don't like to factor or I'm not good at it, I can pop that thing in the quadratic formula and get the answer. Do you understand? All right, so here we go. What do I need to do in order to use the quadratic formula on this guy right here? Yeah, you gotta move you have to make it equal to 0. So you gotta collect all your like terms. So minus 12x, and then plus 9, right? So over here on the right, I have my 0, and over here on the left, I have 25x squared. What's a negative 18x and a negative 12x? Negative 30x. And then just got that little plus 9. Now remember what I told you yesterday, okay? I told you that if you went ahead and took the 3 seconds that it takes to write down A, B, and C, you'll be less likely to make careless mistakes. So tell me what A is. Tell me what B is. Negative 30. And tell me what C, oh, I wrote B, sorry. Tell me what C is. 9. Okay? So, now I'm going to go over here and I want you to say the story with me, because every time you say the story, you know it a little bit better. Okay? So, there was a
Negative boy.
went to a radical party. Went to a radical party where there was square dancing and he missed out on 4 awesome chicks. And it was all over at 2 a.m. Very good. Okay, so we're going to plug all our stuff in. Are you with me? So, x is equal to, what is the opposite of negative 30? Positive 30. Plus or minus square root of, y'all, we don't need a calculator, so you're okay. What is 30 squared? Yeah, 3 squared is 9, and you got 2 zeros, so it's 900. Minus 4 times A is 25 times C is 9. Are you with me? All over 2 times A is 25. All right, so let's work some stuff out. 30 plus or minus. I always go over here and do my little chicken scratch. I got 900 minus. Y'all, what's 4 times 25? What's 100 times 9?
900.
All right, we didn't need a calculator. What's 900 minus 900? Oh, I got a 0 under the radical. All right, what's the square root of 0? 0. What's 2 times 25? 50. Okay, so my 2 answers are going to be, so really what I have is 30 plus or minus 0 over 50. You agree with me? What's 30 plus 0?
30.
So that's going to be 30 over 50. What does that reduce down to? 3/5. Just knock those zeros out, people. Okay? What's 30 minus 0? So 30 over 50 again. Whoa. So what's my solution?
3/5 double root.
Oh, I love that. 3/5, and he is a double root. And if you put that DR on there, on your worksheet, I gave you 1 bonus point for every time you wrote it. On the test, 2. 2 people. I gave you 2 bonus points on the test. Okay? Please do what I ask you to do. When I say, hey, you guys, I want y'all to do this. Okay? Why do I do that? Because this tells me I really did get 2 solutions, and I know that. They were just the same thing. Okay? Yes. It would be very smart to put that down. So here's my questions. All right? My questions are, how many solutions? How many solutions?
2.
Really, there's just what? 1. Okay? I'm going to call it 1. All right? Really, there's 1. I mean, we know he is the double root 1. Okay? I like that. So is he real or imaginary? Very good. So he is real. If he's real, y'all, one time my sister called. She doesn't have any kids. But anyway, she called my sister-in-law, who was my college roommate, so we were really good friends. And we both had kids. And she called us and she was like, hey, she taught school, so our kids at school were evidently talking about it. And she was like, this SpongeBob guy, is he real? No, it's SpongeBob SquarePants. No, he's not real, Vaughn. He is not real. She had no earthly idea who he was. And so we said, it's a cartoon character. You need to watch SpongeBob. So it was funny. So when I say, is he real? No, he's not real. This one is real, right? All right. If he's real, only if he's imaginary, he's imaginary. Okay? But if he's real, he can be rational or irrational. Okay? Now remember this. What does rational mean it has? No radical. Okay? What does irrational means it has? A radical. Tell me what it is, guys. Very good. Okay? So what about on my graph? Wow, what about on my graph? How is this thing only going to intersect the x-axis 1 time?
We on top of each other.
What is? The what? Nope, it's not a line, it's a curve. It's an x squared. Yes, its vertex. Very good. Its vertex is on the axis. Okay? He's on the axis. Y'all, all this little stuff that we're talking about right here, it's going to be on your test, and it's going to be on that little worksheet thing we're doing. Okay? So that's why I'm making such a big deal out of it. All right? It's going to be important. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do one more problem. I think I can fit him down here. All right, so example 3. Negative x squared plus 4x equals 5. Tell me what to do. Yeah, I'm going to subtract 5. Move my 5 over. However you like to think about it. I don't really care. So plus 4x minus 5 equals 0. Okay? So, tell me, what is A? Negative 1. Be careful with that. Don't put down on some kind of crazy x squared or something. What's B?
4.
And what's C?
-5.
Okay? And I'm going to write the quadratic formula down again. And the reason is because if I'm not sure about it, every time I write it down, I just get better. So, x is equal to, there was a negative boy who was kind of iffy. He went to a radical party where there was square dancing, and he missed out on 4 awesome chicks. And it was all over at 2 a.m. Okay? So now I'm going to go plug all my stuff in. So what's the opposite of a negative 4? I mean a positive 4.
-4.
Sorry, I did it. Plus or minus the square root. What's 4 squared?
16.
Minus 4 times A is negative 1 times C is negative 5. Boy, as soon as I start slapping those negatives in there, I have to say to myself, ooh, you better be careful, girl. So 2 times negative 1. All right? So I'm going to go over here and do a little chicken scratch. 16. What do 3 negatives multiplied together make? A negative. I don't care about the 1. What's 4 times 5? 20. What's 16 minus 20? Negative 4. So I'm going to have negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 all over what? Negative 2. Okay, so let's go. We got some work to do, you agree?
Yeah.
First of all, there's a negative under the radical. That's totally illegal. And my number under there can be simplified. All right? So -4 plus or minus. What's the square root of -4? 2i. 2i. Okay? 2i. All over -2. Okay, now first, do you see all these numbers? Will all those numbers reduce by something?
Yes.
What?
2.
Y'all, if you can't reduce everybody, you don't reduce anybody. How many times have I said that in the last 6 weeks?
A lot.
A lot. Okay, that's crazy. So, and don't just like cross people out. Put how many times it goes into them. Because if you're not careful, y'all listen, here's a common mistake. When this is a 2 and you take that 2 out, kids throw that term away. Don't do that. That's bad. All right? So how many times does 2 go into 2? How many times does 2 go into 4?
2.
How many times does 2 go into 2? Okay, so now do you agree he looks like this? -2 plus or minus, it's 1i. You can write the 1 if you want to. Over -1. Are you with me? Okay, I don't like this negative. Okay, so I'm going to show you. I want you to drag it through that top. I want you to pull the negative up here, but it has to be in parentheses. So watch what's fixing to happen. What's the opposite of a -2? This negative, this sign right here, do you agree that it actually makes it look like this? Do you agree with that? It makes the positive negative and the negative positive. Now, have you ever seen anything like that?
No.
We don't write that. Okay? So you just go, oh yeah, that's really what it does, but we write it as a plus or minus. Okay? And then there's my I. So this is my answer.
So it doesn't change anything.
So really, you just take the negatives out.
Yeah, it does, y'all, it really does change this guy. Okay? It does. But we don't, it's not proper to write him that way. If a college professor saw you write that, they would be like, what in the world? What do you think? What is wrong with you? Okay? It would be like writing your E's like this. Do you write your E's like that?
No.
Okay, so don't be crazy, people. All right? Don't be crazy. So 2 plus or minus I. Okay? All right. Now, here's my questions. Are you ready for my questions?
Yeah.
How many solutions?
2.
Very good. Real or imaginary? Now, if they are imaginary, okay, then I don't tell whether they're rational or irrational, okay? So what about my graph? What about my graph? 2 x-intercepts? Tell me where 2 plus I is on the x-axis.
It's in my head.
It never goes through that.
Oh, thank you, Madeline. It does not cross the x-axis. Y'all listen to me. If you're graphing these, there's a y-axis and an x-axis. Is there a real axis and imaginary? No. No. It's just an x-axis and a y-axis. Okay? So, now listen to me. So this is what it's saying. It does not cross the x-axis. Are you with me? It does not cross the x-axis. Which way does this parabola open?
Up.
Down.
Down. He's a negative x squared. He opens down. Where does he have to be if he opens down and he never crosses the x-axis?
On the bottom of the x.
Very good. So here's my graph. He's somewhere, I have no earthly idea, y'all, I'm just making it up, okay? But he's somewhere down here. Do you understand? He can't cross the x-axis. Very good. Good job. Okay, so now I want to take the knowledge that you have and I want to put it into a chart, okay? But before we do that, I want to tell you what the discriminant is called. Remember yesterday when we started out in 4.8 and I said we were going to talk about the quadratic formula and discriminants? Okay, well, no, you were asleep, but whatever. All right, so discriminants. Here's what, y'all, listen to me. The discriminant is the number under the radical. Tell me how to find that number. What's the formula say? What's under the radical in the formula?
2 and 2 squared.
Yeah. Square dancing and missed out on 4 awesome chicks. Okay, so this is my discriminant, all right? It is not the square root of the number. That's the mistake kids make. They'll find this number and then they'll take its square root. That is not the discriminant. The discriminant is simply the number underneath the radical, okay? It is the number under the radical. Do I put the radical sign on it?
No.
No, people, I didn't say it's the square root of b squared minus, I said it's b squared minus 4ac. Okay, so let's make us out a chart. It's going to be a wide chart, okay? It's going to be a wide chart, but it's going to tell us everything that we need to know, what all the discriminant tells us, because it is amazing what all the discriminant tells you, okay? So I think I'm going to start off with something that you know, okay? So do you remember the three problems?
No.
Here they are. These two right here, these two that we just worked, and then the one that we did yesterday. I want you to use those three problems if you can't figure out what the answer is, and see if you can look at those and tell the answer to my question. Okay? So first in our chart, we're going to do the discriminant. I left my S out. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what kind of number the discriminant is. The next thing we're going to talk about is what type of roots or answers, solutions, whatever you want to call them, will I have. Okay, now when we talk about the type of roots, here's what I'm looking for. First, I'm looking for how many. Did we talk about that with each one of those problems? Yes. And then I want to know, is it real or imaginary? Okay? And then, if it is real, I want to know, is it rational or irrational? Okay? So those are the things, thank you, Betty. Those are the things that I'm looking for. Okay? All right, everybody with me? The next thing we're going to talk about is, will the discriminant tell me if it will factor? Oh, yes it does. Yes it does. And what does that discriminant tell me about my graph? Okay? Y'all, look at this. Look at all of these things that discriminant tells me. Tells me how many solutions I'm going to have. Are they real or imaginary? If they're real, are they rational or irrational? Will this thing factor? And what's my graph going to look like? That's a lot, okay? So here's the first one we're going to do. Let's see. I think I'll use a different color. Okay, so what if my discriminant is a positive, just some kind of positive number, but it's a non-perfect square? Okay? He's a positive, non-perfect square. So look at those problems. See if you can find a discriminant, a number under the radical, and he has to be a positive, non-perfect square. Okay? Think about it. Where is he in that quadratic formula? Okay? Tell me the type. How many roots will I have? 2. Because it'll be plus or minus that square root thing. Do you understand what I'm saying? Y'all, it's not a perfect square, so will the radical go away? No, he's not a perfect square. The radical will not go away. So I will have 2. Will they be real or imaginary?
Real.
Why will they be real? Because they're it's positive. Okay? What's going to make them imaginary? If it's negative. Are you seeing?
Yeah.
Okay, so 2 real. All right? Are they going to be rational or irrational?
Irrational.
Irrational. Y'all, we said it's not a perfect square, so the radical's not going to go away. 2 real, irrational. What does that mean? That means there's going to be a square root in the answer. Okay? Roots. Are you with me? Is he going to factor? No. You never factored anything with a radical in it. Okay? No, it will not factor. What about on my graph? How many times will it cross the x-axis? 2 times. 2 x-intercepts. Do you agree with that? 2 x-intercepts. All right, so what about this one? What about this one? a positive perfect square? What if it's a positive perfect square? Okay? So, how many roots will I have? 2. You still got that plus or minus. Okay, so 2. Will they be real or imaginary? Real. He's positive. Will they be rational or irrational?
Rational.
Rational. It's a perfect square, people. That radical's going away. Very good. So this time we'll have no square root in my answer. Okay? No square root in my answer. So 2 real rational roots. Is he going to factor?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Every day. Okay? What about my graph? Will I have any x-intercepts?
Yes.
How many? Okay? What about this one? What if it's 0 under the radical? What if it's 0 under the radical? How many roots will I have? Oh, I'll only have 1 because it's plus or minus 0, people. Okay, and what do we call that? A double root. Will it be real or imaginary? Real. You won't have a radical, people. Real. Okay? He's not negative, I guess I should say. Will he be rational or irrational? Yeah. Is he going to factor? Yes. Not only will he factor, people, he will be a perfect square trinomial. So he's going to factor into that x plus or minus some number squared. He's going to factor into that binomial square. What about his x-intercepts? 1. He's going to have 1 x-intercept, and that's going to be his vertex. Do you agree? Okay. 1 left. What if it's negative? Okay. How many answers? 2. Real or imaginary? Will it factor?
Imaginary.
Yeah, you get imaginary solutions for factoring? No, we don't. Not yet. Maybe pre-cal, but not here. Okay? What about my graph? No x-intercepts. He's never, if he's positive and opens up, if it's a positive x squared, he's open up, he'll be above the x-axis. If it's a negative x squared and it opens down, he'll be below it. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Everybody okay? Okay, so this is example 4. All right, how much time do I have? 15 minutes? Okay, we're going to have to work fast. So we are going to find the discriminant. Okay, and we're going to tell about the roots. Y'all listen to me. You're going to have questions like this on that worksheet I'm going to give you today, on that little packet we're going to start on Monday, and on your big test. Okay? You better tell me everything right here. If you get the discriminant and you say he's 43 and you got 2 roots, I'm going to be like, oh, so sorry. You didn't tell me if they were real or imaginary. You didn't tell me if they were rational or irrational. You got to tell me everything. Tell about the roots. Everybody got it? Okay, so here we go. I'm going to do 3 of them, A, B, and C. Here's the first one. X squared minus 8x plus 17 equals 0. Okay, I'm going to do the first one with you. All right? Does everybody agree? What's the formula for my discriminant? Come on, you got to know it. B squared minus 4AC. Okay, so does everybody agree that that is negative 8 squared minus 4 times 1 times 17? Okay, now let's see, negative 8 squared is 64, and 4 times 17 is 68. So 64 minus 68 is negative 4. Okay, I did that kind of fast. Could I do this in my calculator really quick?
Yeah.
What is the only thing you have to be very careful about?
Negative.
Yes. If you raise a negative number to a power, you have to put him in parentheses. Y'all, if you don't, you're going to miss this problem. Okay? So make sure you know that rule. You should already know it. So there's my discriminant. All right? So tell me about my roots. How many? What are they? What? Imaginary. Why are they imaginary? Because you got a negative number under the radical, guys. Look, right here, negative, 2 imaginary. Okay? Is he gonna factor?
No.
No, he's not gonna factor. You never factored and found imaginary roots. Okay? What about my x-intercepts? None. Very good. All right, everybody ready? Here we go. Here's B. X squared minus 8x plus 16 equals 0. I'll give you 1 minute. Work fast. You got it? Okay, so my discriminant was 64 minus 4 times 1 times 16. So 64 minus 64, so 0. How many answers? 1.
Double root.
Yep, he's a double root. And what else about him?
It will.
He's real.
He's real.
Oh, rational.
And he's rational. Very good. Those are all the things you have to tell me. Okay? What about factoring? Will he factor?
Yeah.
Yes, he's special. People, you factor that dude fast. What about my x-intercepts?
1.
Very good. So that 1, and it is the vertex. Everybody got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So last one. X squared minus 8x plus 15 equals 0. You do the same thing. You can, there's not gonna be a lot of time, so I'm really just gonna start talking about it. So when I start talking about it, don't be copying it down because you won't be listening to what I'm saying. I'll give you a chance to take a picture of it, or you can go online and get it. Okay, so let's talk about this guy up here. So, still the same thing, negative 8 squared is 64 minus 4. Do you see how I take care of that, that parentheses in the calculator? I square the number, people, okay? 4 times 1 times 15. So that's 64 minus 4 times 15 is 60. So that's 4. How many solutions? 2 what? Real what?
Rational.
Very good. He's a perfect square. So 2 real rational roots. Does he factor?
Yes.
Beautiful. Yes, he does. How many x-intercepts?
2.
Very good. 2. All right. Y'all look at these. Look at these equations. What's the only thing that's different in every one of those? C. Okay? C is the only thing that's different. Everything else is the same. All right. So here we go. This is the last question, and then I need to pass out a worksheet so don't run off. Don't worry about writing it down. Okay? I'll let you just snap a picture when I get through. Okay, so a juggler tosses a ball into the air, and the ball leaves the juggler's hand 4 feet above the ground and has an initial velocity of 40 feet per second. The juggler catches the ball when it's back to a height of 3 feet. How long is the ball in the air? Tell me what I'm asking to know. The time. You're asking how long the ball is in the air. So here's my formula. Have you ever seen this? Okay, so let's start on the right side. Negative 16 t squared plus, what does v sub o mean? Initial velocity, what is my initial velocity?
40 feet per second.
40 feet per second. What's this?
Initial height.
What's my initial height?
4 feet.
3
4
feet.
4
4 feet.
feet.
Okay? My penmanship is part of the reason you don't see it, because it's a little hard to read it. All right, so 4. All right, what is this?
Height.
Which height? Ending height. That's my 3 feet. Very good. That is my 3 feet. Okay, so I want to know the time. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to set it equal to 0 and solve it. Okay, I'm solving for t, guys. Okay, so I need to subtract that 3 from both sides. Are you with me? 0 is equal to negative 16 t squared. Y'all, any real life problems? I mean, could I use the quadratic formula? Yes, it's going to be bad. So any real life problems, I'm probably going to put in my calculator. So there is the equation right there. Okay, I did go back and change my windows. All right, I knew that it was going to be pretty small. So x is my time, so I went 0 to 4 on a scale of 1. And I think I just left the other ones, and then I graphed it. Because really, do you agree that that's all I'm looking for? This one over here is negative. I don't really care about him. This is the one I'm looking for. So I go second and calculate. What am I looking for? A 0. He wants a left bound. He's way up there at 17. If I wanted to bring him down, I could. Oh. Too far, little spider. All right, so there's a left bound, right bound, enter. So how long? Tell me you can read that.
2.5. So he's calculating.
2.52 seconds. Okay, 2.52 seconds. All right, I know we went fast. So if you need to look at it again, where is it?
On YouTube.
Go look at it, people. All right. So I'm going to pass out your worksheet, okay? And then